So one of the most valuable ways that you can generate motivated seller leads while you sleep, literally while you sleep, this is no joke, is through SEO, PPC, Facebook ads. Those are three things that you can have turned on running at any given moment. You could receive a lead at 2 o'clock in the morning, at midnight, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, whenever it is on a Saturday, Sunday, doesn't matter. That's how you can actually leverage those platforms to generate leads while you sleep. And I know there's a lot of people out there that either have tried all three of those platforms or one of the three. Maybe you have, and you tried, you failed, and you're like, this doesn't work. I'm going to go back to direct mail. I'm going to go back to TV ads. I'm going to go back to text blasting, whatever it is that you're going to go back to that's worked for you before. However, I do think that it is very necessary to have multiple facets of your marketing and lead generation plugged into active marketing and passive marketing. And there's kind of like some ebbs and flow of either one of those. But today I get my good friend, Brandon Bateman from Bateman Collective on the show today. Brandon is an expert in those three categories, SEO, PPC, and Facebook ads. And we dive super deep today in today's episode into how to utilize those properly and actually be able to get motivated seller leads, high quality motivated seller leads to you through those channels. And, cost effectiveness. We talk about, is it costly to do Facebook ads in a certain market or to run PPC in a certain market? One of the biggest rebuttals that I hear from real estate investors is that it's expensive to run PPC. And while that might be true, depending on the quality of the leads that you're getting and if you're getting deals out of it, it might make sense for you to do it. So we're going to talk about that and decide if it's a good fit for you to be able to utilize those or not in your marketing today. So Brandon is a good friend of mine. Once again, you can connect with him at batemancollective.com, learn more about his services. But it's a really, really good episode. Brandon's a very smart guy, very intelligent, lays out some really clear details about how to utilize these three platforms, and we're going to dive deep into them. So make sure you pay attention, take some notes, and hopefully you enjoy this episode. What is going on, guys? Josh Guller here, back with the ROI Marketing Weekly, and today I am super excited about this episode because the guest that is on today is a really good friend of mine, somebody I've known for a good amount of time, and we've been in and around the same masterminds for a few years. And today I have the pleasure of introducing to you Brandon Bateman with the Bateman Collective right outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. And what they specialize in, I give the full introduction at the beginning of this episode, but specializing in SEO, PPC, paid search, social, paid media, and that kind of thing. And we're going to break down a handful of really, really good tactics today in the brief amount of time that we have. I will say this, Brandon is one of the most intelligent people when it comes to analytics and marketing that I've ever met in my life. So we're going to crack open some really, really good stuff and get pretty deep with some things that Brandon's an expert in. So first of all, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show. What are a couple of things right now? So we're going, at the time of this recording, we're going into the summer of 2024. What are some things right now that maybe you guys are doing for clients that it's a little underutilized and is showing some really high profit margins or just a lot of really good results right now?
Yeah, good question, Josh. By the way, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the time. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we do. Let's start with let's just lay out the land. Like, what's the landscape look like in terms of online marketing when it comes to motivated seller lead gen, or at least the stuff that we do? Because there's a few channels. Probably the one that we're most well known for and the most popular one is PPC. Google PPC is awesome. It's more of an inbound lead than you can get through practically any other marketing channel, with the exception of maybe SEO that we'll talk about in just a second. So great lead quality, decently scalable. You'll find a lot of the biggest investors around the country are using PPC as a marketing channel for those reasons. And it's, so it's fantastic and people know it's fantastic. So, I wouldn't call it underutilized, although there are some strategies on that channel that, are certainly underutilized.
One of the things, before you go deeper into that, because I do want to pause there for a second. I'm glad you started with PPC. A big thing that I hear in our industry is that PPC is just really expensive. It's really expensive. It takes forever to get things going and actually see results. What's your reply to that? Is it like people may not be doing it the right way, or their budgets aren't set correctly? They're not targeting correctly? What would be your answer to something like that?
Oh, there's so many answers to that, because
I was gonna say you probably get that question a lot, right?
yeah, and I've seen all kinds of different things that explain it. So I think probably the best thing I could do to answer your question is just explain, like, let's just say there's a few people that say PPC is too expensive. Like, what's the reason that each of them might be saying that? Because sometimes, it's for different reasons. So here's one thing that happens. You have the person who like wholesales only, and they haven't gotten their spreads super high, and like they could be in this market, whatever market. Let's just say a market where like other people are doing $20,000 assignment fees, and they're doing $10,000 assignment fees, and they're trying to do PPC. Yet they're competing with these other companies that are like doing all the exit strategies, and they get their average fees up to like $30,000. They have a little bit of a wider ROI tolerance. So I'm the guy who makes $10,000 on my wholesale fees. My cost per deal in marketing gets to $7,000. I'm like, I'm paying $7,000 for a deal I can sell for 10. And it's probably not profitable by the time you look at the expenses I have and stuff like that. Meanwhile, someone else is buying for $7,000, and then they're making $30,000 on those deals, and those people are paying all day long, and those people are setting the bid auction prices in that market. So that does happen. Like, so PPC is expensive, although if let's just say your PPC strategy is really good and you still think it's too expensive over a sustained period of time, more likely than not, it's because someone else is better at your business model than you are. They found a way to make more money from those leads. They're closing at a higher rate. They have a lower contract fallout. They have a higher spread on their deals, something like that. Like, assuming you're paying the same amount for leads of a similar quality to them, but they don't think it's expensive and you do think it's expensive, like that's a function of your unit economics in your business. Wow. So that's one side, right? One of our mutual friends, Eli Fisher from Audantic, basically said, if you think PPC is too expensive, it's because someone else has a better business model than you. Wow. And there's some truth to it, because Google doesn't set the price. The price is set by auction. The only reason you could think the price is too high is because somebody else is essentially making money from it. Yeah, or even like, it could be willing to spend more from like an ROI standpoint. Like, maybe they're willing to take 3x return and they're doing it at scale, and you like have to have a 10x, and
you're only lower volume of deals.
Yeah. So then, like, for them, like, it happens all the time. Like, we work with clients, one of them feels like it's too expensive, the other one loves it, and the results are the same. It's just that shit of it.
Wow.
So that's one side. The other side of it is that assumes that there's an equal landscape in PPC and everybody's doing it the same and your strategy's good. Of course, the channel gets really expensive if you don't manage it right, and you start paying more for things than you should. So there's a few levels with that happens on. Like, here's one of the most simple ones. PPC is pay per click marketing. You buy the clicks. Turns out not every click turns into a lead. So let's just say I have a bad landing page. My landing page doesn't load super fast. It's not very conversion optimized. Maybe it's the same no matter what somebody searches on Google. I don't adapt it based on what they're looking for to make it super relevant to them. Whatever it is, it's the issue with my landing page. And then somebody else has a great landing page that loads really quickly. It's hyper relevant to whoever's looking at it. They have great traffic quality going to it. Well, now I might be paying the same amount per click as that person is, but I might have double the cost per lead because I convert half as much of my traffic. Yeah. So everything on the PPC side could be the same for both these companies up until the point of the landing page. And then now I feel like PPC is expensive. Like that's another example. There's an infinite potential like examples of what could be people, right? Like, one guy closes 1 in every 10 leads into a contract. Another person takes 1 in every 40 leads for the same types of leads because they have less exit strategies and abilities to seller. Who's going to think that it's expensive? The person that takes 40 leads to get to a contract, because they're going to say these leads are so expensive for the quality of them. Meanwhile, the other person might have the same cost per lead and they're closing a greater percentage. They're making more money, right? So a lot of it just depends on like your business. It depends on how you're running the marketing. It depends on your perception of like what's expensive. I think in general, people would agree that PPC is expensive, but not overpriced. It's high price, high value.
Yeah, I'm laughing because it's not as simple as just saying PPC is expensive. That's what I'm gathering here. So
no, there's some of our clients that think it's actually really cheap, but in general, people do like even the people who love PPC, they think it's expensive. But it's, again, expensive and overpriced are two different things.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah. And a lot of it is based on, like you said, I mean, even in the organic world that I operate in, I tell people basically if they don't have some sort of a clean cut conversion process after we get a lead to you, then there's you can't guarantee anything, right? Like, it's just gonna fall apart. You're not gonna convert any kind of traffic, and that's extremely important. And I would put any money on the fact that last example you gave about that specifically is a really big reason why people don't convert with PPC. That would be my guess. But one of the things I wanted to go into too with you is there similarities to the principles of running successful PPC campaigns as it is on social, say like Facebook or any other type of paid social media?
Yeah, for sure. Facebook's, in my experience, the number one in this industry, just based on demographics that you're working with.
Yeah.
So oftentimes we're looking at Google PPC and Facebook ads as being the two core paid channels. They're similar in some ways. They're different in other ways. Google's demand harvesting, whereas Facebook we'd call demand generation.
Right.
Just like Google, they already want to sell their house. They're already looking for you, and then they find you. Versus Facebook, like I'm just scrolling through, looking at pictures of my friends and family or whatever.
And interrupted. Yeah.
Interruption marketing.
Yeah.
So Facebook's a little bit of a lower quality lead than PPC, but not as bad as some people think. We average about 15 leads per contract on PPC and about 18 leads per contract on Facebook. So it's worse, yes, but not that much worse.
Not that much. Yeah.
So they're similar in some ways, different in other ways. Facebook, picture less scalable, lower quality leads, but cheaper.
Okay.
Like it's not common people call Facebook marketing expensive. They call it expensive, but the PPC is definitely a better lead quality, and it's more scalable. Like if let's just say I can like pedal to the metal, like scaling the heck out of my Facebook ads in a market, I can get to 20 grand a month. PPC, I'd probably be at 80 grand a month in that same market.
Wow.
So there's that's why you'll find, especially bigger companies, but more focus on PPC and Facebook. So PPC is more of a core channel and Facebook's a little bit more supplemental.
Yeah, for sure. Now, do you find what type of media do you find to be the best type of media to run paid traffic on with Facebook ads? Is it like static imagery? Is it video? What works best?
We actually we tested static imagery, video, and both, and it turns out both works better than either individually.
Okay.
It has an algorithmic component where if you put both assets into a single ad, it's able to dynamically serve the images to people who might react best to images, and then the videos I react best to videos, which is better than having just one option. Right. So both is the best. But if we're just looking at, like, we put that in order, both is the best, after that video, after that images, for raw performance basis.
Got it. And then, like, let's take, for instance, what type of messaging, so if I'm on a video and I'm running a paid Facebook ad, what am I saying on the video? Is it like that, basically the postcard type mentality? It's like, sell your house fast, sell your house, get paid with cash, like close quickly. Is it like that punchy, or is it more value driven and then call to action? Like, what's the structure for that works the best?
We love to go right to the call to action. Here's the reason. It's so if you're doing organic, it'd probably be the opposite that would work best.
Yeah.
The thing with paid is, and this is just, I'm sorry if this gets like slightly complicated. We're just peering into how Facebook's algorithm works. If you're running an ad, the minute you start running your ad, it starts showing impressions to people in your audience. But when it does that, it starts to see which of those people are responding more positively to it, like which people actually watch the video, which people start to click, which people start to convert. And then it starts to like veer further that direction with its audience targeting. So the thing is, when you target an audience in Facebook, a lot of people think it's like, let's just compare it to fishing, right? It's like I gave Facebook the ocean, so it's just gonna like cast and then like move over a mile, cast, move over a mile, cast. Okay. Like that's how it is. That's not how it works. It's kind of like it starts to cast, move over a little bit, cast until it starts to get bites, and then it starts doubling down and tripling down. Like, that's how the algorithm works. So you give it the ocean, it doesn't fish the ocean. Like you give it the ocean, it'll kind of like feel it out and it'll find where it wants to be, and then it'll double down there. So if I put an ad out there that's just informative and adds value, it's going to get a lot of bites everywhere. Versus the key thing is, when we're creating a video for Facebook ads, what I think is, how do we create something that's so perfect for our ideal customer that they will watch it, number one, but number two, if they're not our ideal customer, they won't watch it. So the goal is to attract the right people, but also repel the wrong people, right? To create. And what that does is it's kind of like if you were fishing, imagine you have a bait out there that only the fish that you really want to catch would bite versus just a bait any fish would bite. So then people go out deep sea fishing and then they find through Facebook's algorithm, they end up in some pond with little breadcrumbs on their hook catching bluegill because the algorithm just got confused at some point. It totally hurts. So that's what we look for, like qualifying and convert, attract the right people, repel the wrong people. And for paid, that works really well. And you're not going to have the highest click-through rate, but then you have a much higher conversion rate after the click.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. That's a great analogy. And honestly, again, that is probably the best kind of explanation that I've ever heard in terms of how the Facebook algorithm works with paid traffic. It's that people love it. And okay, don't get me wrong. It can be very complicated, especially when you start getting deeper into your campaigns and building out, you're building out some A/B testing and you're running different pixels for different traffic sources and stuff like that. That can get complicated, but the principle of it is pretty simple. Like the way that Brandon just laid it out, that's really how it works. And it is very simple for the organic side of social media as well. Me being on the organic side with our services, it is very similar. It works in a little bit of a different mentality and way because people are coming back organically, but it is like the methodology is great. And of course, like I am in agreement with the, given the call to action right off the bat, immediately because, Facebook is putting it in front of somebody that they believe is going to, it's going to be useful to your ad. So one thing I want to pivot on that is going to make my head hurt, but I know that you can answer the question, but it will make my head hurt, is from an analytics standpoint, KPIs, whatever you want to call them, metrics. What type of metrics do you look at I want to bounce back to PPC and then maybe come back to Facebook if it makes sense. And they may be similar too. What type of metrics are you looking at to determine if A campaign is successful, B, what analytics do you look at to make adjustments, whether it is to change the keywords or change the media or whatever it is? Like, what are some of the things that you guys analyze and look at as you're running campaigns for PPC?
Yeah, everything's a funnel. This is kind of the way that I see it, right? When we hear funnels, we picture like, I don't know, click funnels and like they go to this page and that page. Like, yeah, funnel means that too, but funnel is also like any type of like progress where certain people drop off at different stages, right? Right. So if you picture like what is a typical like sales or marketing funnel, it looks like this, right? And in the top comes money, out the bottom comes money. And really what you care about in a funnel is how much money goes into the top or how much money goes at the bottom, right? And then if that's good, if that's bad, if that's improved, if that's gotten worse, etc., all lies in those ratios between those metrics in the funnel. Right. So I'll just lay it down for you, like really simply, the funnel that we have for our clients. Ad spend turns into impressions. Impressions turn into clicks. Clicks turn into leads. Leads turn into net leads, which then turn into contacted seller leads, which then turn into opportunities, which turn into contracts, which turn into deals, which turn into revenue, right? Like that's your whole funnel of like PPC marketing or Facebook marketing for the real estate investment space. So if we're, like I said, if we're doing great or we're doing poor or we're doing better or we're doing worse than we were before, it must be because of some change in that funnel. So we look at those different metrics, right? Like what's the ratio between your ad spend and your impressions? It's your CPM. What about from impressions to clicks? That's called click-through rate. What about clicks to leads? That's called conversion rate. What about leads to net leads? That's going to be a gross to net lead ratio, right? So all of these things have their own metrics associated with them, and you track those things. And which one matters the most right now is the one that you're the weakest in. And there's different problems. There's different solutions for each one of those things. So the problem that I see like happening with a lot of marketers and with a lot of real estate investors is they're like, I'm not getting as much at the bottom of the funnel for what I'm putting into it as I would like. So then they just start changing random things. Like, oh, maybe my landing page doesn't load fast enough. Well, is landing page conversion rate the problem? Is that the constraint in your funnel? If it is, that's a potential explanation. If it's not, then let's focus on the real problem, which might be that when you get opportunities, you don't close them into contracts or something like that. So that's what we do. And the really neat way about how we do it is we have 190 clients that are virtually the same business, just in different markets. Yeah. And we can look at that and we know like what's normal. So if we see that a metric starts to look awry, like Like we know a contact rate for leads is about, a contact rate for net leads is about 82%. We start to see that at 75%. We know we probably have an issue with our lead management. And then we know that's exactly what we're going to attack to solve this problem. And that's true for all those other metrics in the funnel. Does that make a little bit of sense?
It does. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Interrupting this podcast episode to tell you guys that this podcast is managed and produced by Color Media Productions. Yes, shameless plug, that's my company. However, we do this for a lot of other people as well. Most people that we work with are in the real estate investing space. So if you're listening to this podcast specifically, you probably are a real estate investor, given it's called the ROI Marketing Weekly. If you're somebody that either wants to start a podcast or you have one going and it's becoming a little bit of a hassle, you're looking to transition to somebody that works a little bit better with a fluid motion in terms of you get the recordings done and then they do everything else, well, that's what we do. We do fully managed podcasts from start to finish, video, audio, show noting, the graphics, publishing, everything that goes into it. It's a full service business that we run here in a service for you as a real estate investor if you are running a podcast. Additionally, we also do social media and YouTube management as well. So all of that being on the organic side, if you are interested in learning more about working with us and just recording content with guidance and strategy set by myself personally, and then not doing anything else after that, where we're taking care of everything from start to finish, then make sure you go check us out at colormedia.com, CULLER media.com. Hit us up there and we can learn more about working together, hop on a phone call and see what we could do for you. Now back to the episode. It's crazy how it's okay. So it's very obvious that you've done this not just for a long time, but it's very similar for all. You said 190 clients, the same business model, just different markets. You have, I mean, I can't even remember the first one, but you nailed down like there was probably 7 to 10 different steps within the funnel that you operate in. And it's just a matter of like going to dissect what each step of the funnel kind of, dictates for the next step of the funnel. And then you reverse engineer if there is a problem, like you said, it's not just pointing at something random. It's actually going and spending some time, spending a little bit of effort. I know it's not easy, but spending a little bit of effort, going back into your funnel and figure out what actually is not working. And sometimes, and you may even know this too, is like sometimes I find that it may not be something overly complicated. Like you said, it might just be, truthfully, it might just be the web page isn't loading fast enough. Well, that's a pretty simple fix in most cases. So that might be like just fix that and then you're done with it and then everything's smooth sailing from there. So no, that you explained that extremely well. I love it. Now, is it similar back to the Facebook paid traffic campaigns? Is it very similar in terms of the methodology of tracking KPIs and what numbers to look at as you just explained for PPC?
Yeah, it totally is. The core difference is usually with PPC, we're looking at ad spend and then the next stage of the funnel being clicks because cost per click matters because it's PPC.
Right.
So PPC, you don't really care how many impressions you get because you just don't pay for them at the end of the day. Right. Versus Facebook, we pay per impression, right? So we care about let's just say your cost per lead changes in Facebook. There's only 3 reasons your cost per lead could have changed, or like 3 metrics that would be correlated with that. Number 1, the CPM, the cost per 1,000 impressions. Number 2, the click-through rate, the rate at which those impressions turn to clicks. And number 3, the conversion rate, the rate at which those clicks turn into conversions on your site. Yeah. So if your cost per lead changes, it's got to be one of those 3 things. Versus with PPC, it's either your cost per click or your conversion rate. So it's a slightly different funnel, but ultimately at the end of the day, it's similar. But that's just how you like sub-diagnose issues, right? You're like, cost per lead is my problem. Now I know that my real problem is click-through rate. That's what's causing my cost per lead. And then from there, you kind of come up with like, what are all the things that could change the click-through rate? Could it be that my creative's wearing out? Could it be that I made some other creative changes? Is my audience targeting getting worse? Whatever. And kind of like dig in and prove or disprove those different things. Oftentimes, the only way you make adjustments, I'm sure you know this from a marketing standpoint, very rarely can you prove what the problem is. More often, you can disprove what's not the problem. Yeah. You're just left with 1 or 2 things that it could be because you've eliminated everything else.
Process of elimination. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, for sure. That's funny. No, it's exactly the same. I think like marketing, there's so many different marketing channels and specialists within the marketing world, but the way we solve problems are very similar from each other. And that normally is kind of the process of because there's just so many functions, and especially everything that you do, there's a lot of functions, and the things that we do as a service provider, there's so many different functions, and you can't just randomly point at one thing and say like, I think this is the problem, because if you think, then you may be fixing something that's not broken, and that could actually break it if you try to fix it and, create a whole mess. But man, we are winding down our time. We've been on here for about 25 minutes now, and this is crazy because we've not even skimmed the surface of everything that you could give us. But one of the things I was kind of excited to ask you this, and I'm thinking I'm going to get a good answer out of you, but it's a little bit of a different one. It's not something I'm going to ask everybody. In the world of what you do from paid traffic, I've personally heard you speak, I think maybe 2 or 3 different times in front of an audience, and Collective Genius at a hot seat and that sort of thing. And every time I've heard you speak, you, like, half your presentation, you're bringing something to the table that I'd never even thought of before, or even was aware that like this existed that you could teach. So there's a lot of kind of like hidden things, and especially in the world, like people that are listening to the podcast right now, they're probably, first of all, probably not doing PPC, SEO, paid traffic in any way, shape, or form. But if they are, more than likely they're either doing it themselves, or they may have like a virtual assistant that's helping them run it and not like a professional agency running it. But in the world of what you do, there's so many nuances. There's so many things that are the unknowns and that sort of thing. What's something that maybe occurs often that you need to bring up to a client that maybe they didn't think of? Or for me, it's like, what question am I not asking you that's highly important and could really dictate my success or failure within running PPC or paid traffic on Facebook, SEO, that sort of thing?
Oh, that's a good question.
There might be a lot, but
a lot. I'm going to view, like, because more often than not, people don't run their own ads. Like I could like talk to you about like all kinds of cool technical stuff, like optimization of the platforms, like strategies people aren't using, but it's less practically useful. Let's talk about something that every single business owner entering PPC as a channel needs to do to be successful. And that is figuring out the right acquisitions process for that type of lead. I can tell you what happens over and over and over again with us is insert whatever company has been running cold call, really successful with that for a long time. They start PPC, they fail for a little bit, then they realize they need some of their processes, and then they start to succeed. So I'll give you an example of this. I worked with this client in a major market. They spent $10,000 a month on PPC for 4 months. And this for some context, this company was doing $300,000 to $500,000 a month worth of revenue from cold calling. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people would say, of course, there's plenty of bigger investors out there though, but they're not beginners, right? They have a decent wholesale at this point. So they spend their $10,000 a month for 4 months, $40,000, and they got 0 deals from PPC. And naturally they came to me and said, what the heck, Brandon, we're not getting deals from PPC.
Yeah.
So we look at the metrics. I look at the stuff and I'm just like, this is reasonably healthy. Like these metrics shouldn't look that way. Like the campaign seems to be going fairly well. So we start to dig into like the funnel. Like I said, we kind of, like I had explained, like we break down where are things not working in our funnel. And it looked like there were some sales process issues. So we make some adjustments for this company. There's 2 key adjustments that they made. Adjustment number 1, speed to lead. They found a way to get to leads immediately within 60 seconds instead of taking several hours like they did before. Because with their cold call leads, it was fine. Mm-hmm. So it didn't hurt them that much. With any lead, it's better to be fast.
Oh yeah.
With leads, the shelf life is really, really short, right? Yep. They expire fast. You'll be calling the lead and you'll say it's not good. They don't even answer the phone. Meanwhile, they're signing a contract with your competitor.
Yep.
Happens.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So we fixed their speed to lead, or they fixed it, better said. Number 2, qualification of the leads. What they were doing is taking these cold call leads. They would have to qualify them based on 2 pillars of motivation. I don't know if you've heard of the methodology of the 4 motivation before. It seems like most people have. They would qualify based on having at least 2 pillars of motivation. They did that same thing with their PPC lead, and they were actually disqualifying a massive number of their PPC leads. So I challenged them and I said, you know what, for 30 days, I just want you to just let the lead have an appointment no matter what. Like if they're willing to
at least
take
one pillar. Yeah.
not even a pillar. Like
Oh, not even a pillar. Okay.
Willing to talk to us about selling your house. Yes. Okay. We're setting the appointment.
Okay. Got it. Got it.
And here's what was fascinating. So at the end of the day, with cold call, it takes them 5 appointments to get one contract. That's qualifying based on 2 pillars of motivation. With PPC, it took them, with 0 pillars of motivation, 5 appointments to get one contract. Believe it or not, exact same close rate. They went from 0 deals on $40,000 at spend the 4 months prior. The next 4 months, they did 17 deals for $500,000 of revenue, about $30,000 on each one of those deals. Just by getting the leads quickly and not over qualifying those leads. You just getting on the appointment as possibly can. So that's an example, and those are just like a couple of the things that you want to focus on if you're looking at your process. You basically want a process to treat it's like with cold calling, you're sifting through the haystack to find the needle, versus with PPC, like every piece of hay, you just have to really, really believe it's a needle, and you have to treat it like it's a golden needle, and that's how you get through. Just the fact that you can have less leads per contract doesn't mean that you will. Like you have to treat the leads differently. But that's one of the biggest challenges our clients deal with, even when you have an existing sales team that's trained and everything, is changing the processes for the type of lead.
Yeah. Wow, that's super fascinating. So one thing I want to cap off with what you said, because we had a similar conversation. I had Brad Whittle out of Atlanta on the show, and he's excellent at PPC. He has a whole background with it and that sort of thing. So he does it himself for his marketing. And he gave a very similar like explanation of the speed to lead process. And we use the example of like, so it was kind of funny because it was like a day after I was at an event with Gary Harper here in Schererville, Indiana. And somebody at the event had brought up the question about PPC, almost exactly like, one of the things I just discovered was like the speed to lead thing. So I got to make sure that I get like somebody on my team that can like pick up calls immediately within like a 2-minute window or whatever. And I literally spoke up and like, I gave an example because next to where the event space was a dog grooming parlor. And I said, here's an example for you is let's pretend that you're PPC lead and it's all about the context of how they got to you. They are actively looking, right? Like they're looking at that moment because they're in their motivation. So they want to get it solved. It's not like Facebook marketing where you're interrupting them in the middle of their feet. They're not looking for a solution to the problem right there. So let's pretend like the dog parlor is your business and a lead walks in the door with their dog and says, I want to get my dog groomed, walks in, there's nobody at the counter. So they ding the bell, nobody comes to the counter. Ding the bell again, nobody comes to the counter. But then for sake of example, there's another dog parlor that does the exact same thing that you do right next door. They walk out the door, they go to that next dog parlor, and somebody's at the counter ready to take your dog in and, groom them and all that. It's literally the same. Their storefronts is literally what it is. And because they're in that motivation, they can leave your storefront if you don't answer within an ample amount of time and go to the next person because they might be doing the exact same thing that you do. They can buy the house just like you do. And so that's extremely important. And a lot of people have, it's not clicked yet. They don't get it. Speed of lead's important. Is there some you wanted to cap off of that?
No, that's actually really good. A really great example. Makes you just want to be the dog parlor where when someone comes in, you don't give them any reason to ever go anywhere else, right? Like I came in, I called Josh, I talked to him, and I was going to get 4 offers, but now I really think Josh is my guy, right? Yeah. That's what. So yeah, I'm 100% with you on that, and it makes a massive difference. And actually getting that done, obviously, this is easier said than done. Sharper's a good company to work with to learn about how to get these things consistently done in your business. You probably need to measure your time to get to leads and stuff like that. And also just as common of a problem I've seen with our clients is we ask them how long it takes for them to get to leads, and they're like, oh, under 60 seconds every time. And then we just kind of spot check a few of them in their CRM, and we see like 4 hours, 8 hours. Oh, no. And like, what's going on? How's this possible? And they find out the team's been lying to them, or they're like, because anyways, salespeople are salespeople, right? You ask them how quickly they're getting to the leads. The answer is always like, oh, right away, because it was like right away from when I thought about it. Not, yeah. But, so just be aware. Like the reason that the reason not everybody does this is because it's not easy. But if you can be a company that can consistently, like it's not like the most impressive real estate businesses do anything fancy. They're just like, they do the basics all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things, it's just one of the basics, but you'd be surprised how few companies get it right. And it makes a massive difference to your results. On the topic of PPC being expensive, right? Because what if you get to your leads faster and you qualify them properly, and then you can produce twice as much revenue from your leads as your competition. Now, when the bid prices go up in the market, it's going to be because you're driving them up. And all those other people are going to say PPC is expensive. Meanwhile, you're raking it in and you're doing great because you've got a better business. That's the important thing.
Yeah, that's huge. What a great way to end the show. Brandon, thank you so much for being on and giving an immense amount of value. I do know that we're going to have down below all the ways to get in contact with you and that sort of thing. The BatemanCollective.com, is that the best place to learn more about working with you guys?
Yeah, just BatemanCollective.com. You got it.
Okay, so BatemanCollective.com. We'll have it directly linked below in the show notes, guys. Brandon, thank you so much for being on. I will definitely have you back again soon because we have a whole lot more to talk about on the show when it comes to marketing, PPC, paid traffic, and that sort of thing. So thank you for spending some time, and we'll see you next time, all right?
Well, thank you, Josh.
All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you guys for joining in and listening. If you haven't already, make sure you have subscribed to the show. Also, leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, however you're listening. We also do chop these up into clips and put those on YouTube that are specific to a topic that we discuss. And then also, of course, you can follow on social media. All of that's going to be down below, linked there, so you can check that out. But thank you guys for listening and tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.